Hi, I'm Nick Shell, your host of Fuller House Recaps. This is a recap of the 4th episode of Fuller House entitled The Not So Great Escape. What was the whole escape plan to begin with? So that Ramona was going to sneak out of school? For what though? Like, if you're a teenage kid and you sneak out of your middle school, which to be exact, Van Atta Middle School was the name of the school, well, what are you planning to do? I mean, so you sneak out one day and you get away with it, and then what about the next day? They're eventually going to find out you're not going to school, right? But again, these are teenage kids. How are they, 13 or 14 or whatever? So I guess it makes sense that it's not supposed to make any sense. And then at first I thought I found out a mistake in the show when Jackson, DJ's oldest son, sets up the fire alarm. Because if they're working on volcanoes that are just made out of what, like, is it peroxide and vinegar or whatever? I'm like, how does that make the smoke alarm go off? But apparently he had some chemicals that would cause an actual fire and therefore smoke to set up the alarm. That's a lot of trouble just to get his roommate slash friend out of school to sneak out because she doesn't like her school. But again, what was that plan? Just didn't make any sense. But it's planned by teenagers. So I guess I'll just accept that. I guess I overanalyze the show, right? That's pretty much what these videos are, is me overanalyzing Fuller House. All right, so I guess something that makes this episode special, because I feel that here, even in the 4th episode, they haven't really come out and said, okay, this show is called Fuller House because DJ's last name was Fuller when she was married. So therefore, this is Fuller House. Well, they haven't. I think this is the first episode where they actually said her married name, because, or at least they showed it on her tag at the clinic she works at as a veterinarian. So, okay, so yes. Then, of course, in classic 1980s style, we have to overlook the fact that Stephanie and the boys were able to get into 5-foot-tall vats of tomato soup. I mean, that's a lot of money. First of all, that's a lot of tomato soup. Like, wouldn't that cost a lot of money? Like, and do they just have tomato soup laying around at the veterinarian clinic? How did they get in how did they obtain the soup? How did they get in the soup? And then they had to get out of the soup and get cleaned? That just seems like a lot of trouble for the whole skunk thing. I mean, I get it that they had to get rid of the skunk smell, but man, I'm thinking too much about this show. And I like the show. I'm going to keep watching it and keep doing these recaps, as long as you keep watching, of course. But man, I'm overthinking this show. Well, the episode ultimately ends with the newest rendition of Comet being adopted. And of course, now that we've got a whole family here, we can so now they pick out the cutest puppy. And okay, I like that concept of the show. And I thought the little kid, what's his name? Max, I guess. I actually liked him playing with the puppies. He's a good actor. Actually, I feel that way about all the actors on the show. I think that especially those little kids, like, they're good actors. And I think that's going to really help this. Now, I'm going to do a whole other video on this eventually too, after I've seen all 13 episodes. But right now, my favorite character, and I said this from the first recap, but Kimmy Gibbler is my favorite character. She really makes this show work. And back when she was more of on the original series, I feel she was more kind of on the sidelines. And now that she's been brought to the forefront, it makes sense. She's a good leading character for this show. And her character, Kimmy Gibbler, is responsible to a degree. I mean, she's responsible enough she owns her own business and is able to support her and her daughter through that. You see that Kimmy Gibbler did grow up, and even though her parenting style needs some adjusting, which DJ's there to help. So those are my thoughts on episode 4 of Fuller House, The Not So Great Escape. And I have been your host, Nick Shell of Fuller House Recaps. Thanks for watching.